Hey folks, Jonathan here. Want to go and get started on the video for the Unit 614 crane that we're going to be recovering from the woods. In this picture, you can see the crane just to the left of the two buildings. There's two buildings about center, and you'll see it in there. This was in 2003. Now, this was before there was any trees around it grown up or anything like that. Just a couple of years before this, I actually remember watching this machine work in that very field, and he was using it to turn compost pile. So in the second picture there, which was taken in 2007, you'll see that looks a lot nicer. But you can slowly see as it changes and gets up to 2019, the trees are grown up, and now it's completely covered, and getting in there is going to be pretty hard to do. Okay, so plans is to go in with my skid steer and try not to push too many trees. I'm going to try to go back with the original road that was there, and then we'll have to go and probably cut the fence and bring it out of the enclosure if we get it running. So the problem is I could not turn the engine. The water pump, I'm assuming, is stuck, but I'm not positive. And the other problem we're running into is if you look to the left of where the machine was sitting, you'll see water. And if you look to the right of the field, you'll see more water. So this is not dry land down there, and we don't want to get stuck. That's one thing we got to be really careful of as we go in and do it. Now, here's a quick look of what the machine should look like. Now, this is a toy, but this is basically what it would look like if it was cleaned up and painted like it was originally. And here it is, as you can see, in its current state. Here is what I believe to be a half-yard bucket, and we'll do more on that later so everybody will understand how they work. So I'm sure everybody wants to know why I'm choosing this machine over one of the others when the others were a lot nicer. Well, there's a couple reasons. One reason was I was able to trade for this machine without having a lot of money in it. So that made it nice. Second thing, it's only about 6 miles from my house. And third thing is the guy that owned it was he's selling the land. So his plans was to take the boom off, use it for something, the engine, and then scrap the rest. So I decided that I would, save it from being scrapped anyway. So this is going to be a pretty big job, and it's about 100 yards from the road at least. And here is the tag. It was made 7th month, 8th day of 1952. So this is an old machine. It's what I want. And we're going to see if we can get it running and get it out of there. So first things first is to get in there to it with the skid steer and some fuel and some parts. And got to put a fuel pump on it. We're going to see if we can get this thing running, and come along with me. All right. Okay, folks, we're over here heading toward the Unit 614. And boy, we're going through some limbs and such, but I guess we're alright. Somebody's been up here pretty recent. It looks like. We might ought to put this thing in full dry. Go to 4 high. Let me get back here and get stuck. Don't know how close we're going to be able to get to it here. I'm surprised I'm able to get this close so far. Alright. So let's see if we can go a little more. It's a work truck. It's gonna get scratched. Alright, I think we have come to a dead end here. Go this way a little way. Yeah, I don't see how we can get any farther. But I don't know where the road originally went. But I'm thinking if we walk out and we go that way across this fence, we can get to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a few tools with us, and I'm going to pull a part off that I'm going to have to make for it, which I'll show you when I get there. And hopefully we're going to see for sure whether this engine's locked up or not. So that's the plan. So let's get our stuff together here and head that way. Okay, you can see what I mean about being wet. It is really wet. Okay, so all these trees right here, this was field, and all these trees right here have grown up. In that last 20 years. Okay folks, we made it back here to it, and here she is. And if you look right here, water, and this swamp right there. So we're right here basically in the swamp. So hopefully we can get this thing out of here. I actually think that that's the road. There's two fences here. There's one right here and there's one right on the other side. So I think that's the road. We didn't come in that way, but I think what's going to happen is we're going to take, well, it's already down part of the way. Yeah, the fence is already open here. We're going to come right here. Well, we have to figure out how to get down this road or down that way. The way that water's running, it ain't going to be through there. So there's a bunch more water over there. So we'll probably run it down the edge of this fence line on the inside here, and then we'll cut out wherever we have to cut out at. But okay, so what we're going to do first, then the reason I came over, I want to look things over, get a little better idea on, you know, getting this thing out of here, getting her fired up and driving it out. It's going to be fun. Figured worst comes to worst, we would take the chains off and the drive chains. I'm not talking about the tracks, I'm talking about the drive chains, and try and winch this thing out after we raise the boom up. But I think we can get it fired. We'll try. But let me show you the reason I come over. And also, you know, I know that the other machines are in better shape. Also, I think I've worked it out to where we can get the 1946 Inslee. I have spoken to the man. So we are still planning to do something in the spring on that. But again, I didn't want this machine here to get scrapped, and that's what was going to happen to it. Now, I'm not saying that it's any better than scrap, but we're at least going to check her out and, you know, give it at least, you know, another chance. My thought is possibly to take these machines when I'm done with my steam engine setup and move these next door to my property where it's been cleared, and actually let people learn how to dig with a dragline bucket, and, you know, just to play on it, have it sit out there where there's nothing close enough that anybody could hit, and then they could practice a little bit and maybe learn how to use a dragline. And you know, I think that would be a fun deal, because I know a lot of people that, you know, have talked about it, and a lot of people that operate equipment, but they don't realize how hard it is to operate an old machine, how much muscle it takes. This is clutch and brakes. Everything's clutch and brakes on these things. So, okay, a few things. Main clutch. We got that lever right here, which is, you change it from one way to the other, and it locks the house to keep the house from turning. When it locks the house, it allows the drives to work. When it's unlocked, it lets it spin. So, pretty simple. I mean, there's not a lot to these things. There's a lot of gearboxes and such like that, but, you know, that's all it is gearboxes. Now, this thing runs a worm gear. It's a worm and a wheel inside this. Now, if this had been the Chrysler gas style, it would have had a torque converter, and this one just happens to be a diesel 2-cylinder. So, all right, let's get up here where I can see what I want to show you. Okay, so the reason I came, of course, we got to see if this thing's stuck or not. Fuel pump has been taken off, and I've got the fuel pump. He actually gave it to me. Well, I wanted to see what it took to put it back on, and it looks like it's going to be just 5/16 nuts. I can't tell whether they're fine or coarse because I can't see good enough. It's kind of dark down there. But we know that. But the other problem, I noticed it's probably a can of ether. And there's some oil. Bottom right here is everything looks good, but I could not figure out why this top was broke. If somebody was trying to steal something or what the deal was. So what I've done, looks like a crack right here, but for what we're doing, I'm not going to worry too much about that. As long as I can get this off there, that's what I came for, because I want to make a piece, and that way when I come back I'll be able to have water in it. But we're going to see if this thing's stuck. I can't move this fan at all, so that's why I'm thinking that the it's not necessarily the engine that's stuck, it's the water pump. But I figured I would play with it a little bit. Everything else looks pretty good. The exhaust hasn't been rained in. It's got a flapper cap on it. I don't know. And that is a 2-cylinder. 271. 71 series means it's 71 cubic inches per cylinder. So it's 142 cubic inches. And the seat is missing on it. Hopefully we'll find it around here. It should have had a seat that flipped up off that bracket. If not, we'll have to make something. This thing is no steering wheel either. It's made for somebody that lost their button, don't know which way to turn. Okay, I got a little bit of turnage out of it. Didn't turn easy there at first, but I've got it turning. I was able to do it by hand. And let me get the camera somewhere where you can see the rust on the pulleys. It's been, you know, every bit of 20 years since this thing has ran, so. But that's not too long. Not for a Detroit anyway. We just have to make sure that it don't stick. And I'll show you how we do that here in a few minutes. Okay. Alright, being a Detroit, it'll run. I'm going to pull the valve cover and show you what we're talking about. We talk about a rack sticking on it. Alright. Okay folks, don't look bad underneath the valve cover. We got a lot of oil. The injectors, you know, everything looks nice and clean. This is the rack. This is what will stick on you if you're not careful. So you want to have this off when you start it, and you want to take and your intake tube have something you can cover it with. And I don't mean a rag where it's going to suck it up into the supercharger, but you need to have something over top of it. Now this runs just a little tiny supercharger on the other side. I'll show you it in a minute. But anyway, these instead of having a separate injector pump, the injectors are the pump, and there's an extra lobe on the cam, and it pumps the injector, and that's what puts it in. You got one fuel line in and one return line coming out, and they just run around. It's again not complicated at all. Setting the rack, running the rack on a Detroit, that would be synchronizing each one of the cylinders, which is only 2 on here. You know, the more you have, the harder it is to do, more time and trouble, and then specialty tools, and you want to make sure that it's not going to stick on you, and make sure, like I said, you got something to close it off if it does. So. The rack, okay, you got a gear rack that runs directly through the injector, and this rack is what actually throttles it up and down. Let me see if we can get this thing to move. It ain't wanting to move at all. I think our injectors are stuck. When these shut off, normally they'll shut off and stick wide open, so we're definitely going to have to work on that. So you got a gear rack that runs through, and that gear rack pulling or pushing is what accelerates or deaccelerates the engine. So you've got one on each. So what happens is these stick, which this is doing. Now he had an HD5 out of Chumbers that had a 271, and he pulled the fuel pump off this because he was trying to get the other one to run, and that wasn't the issue. So that's why the fuel pump's off of it. Now, as to what we do, we may bring an electric. Probably not going to run off the tank. This machine actually has a 40-gallon tank on it. Believe it or not, from the manual, it only lists 4 gallons of antifreeze and water in that whole system, and it almost looks like the radiator would hold that much, but maybe I'm wrong. Won't be dependent on anything. Here's the kill, but anything to start it, I'm sure that's what that is. And then that's for the ether. ether injection to start it. Got this little tube right here. You would put it in here and pumps into the right into the intake, or right into the supercharger actually. But and more clutches. No drum brake, no band brakes on this side, just on the other side. And again, I know this machine will not steer. That's the other thing. And I keep mentioning this stuff, and I'm sure I'm giving everybody more and more reasons why I shouldn't be even messing with this machine, but you know, that's the way it is. Okay, what he done was actually put a block under the track on the side that he wanted to turn on, and then clutch that side, and it would spin around. And so we'll probably crawl up under it here in a few minutes, and I'll show you where the brakes are and where that situation is going to have to be resolved from. And it's probably going to entail probably some new linings and maybe some machine work and stuff. You never know. The linings on this thing are actually made to be removable without taking the brake shoe off. You can go to the back side of the brake shoe, and there's actually a bolt that holds the lining to the shoe, which is kind of odd. But you know, you're not going to go to Advanced Auto or Napa and get parts for this thing. I like that rounded cab with the visor though. That's neat. So let me get to the other side, and well, let me get this piece off first, and then I'll get to the other side and I'll show you the supercharger. Okay, so it came off. Luckily it didn't break any bolts. I worked them back and forth for quite a while to make sure. So, alright, so now I'm just worried about the angle. I guess I could find something to bend, a piece of metal or something to give me an idea of that angle, because the more I see it, the more it scares me here. Anyway, so we'll find something to, or even a stick that's already got the right shape to the limb coming off. We'll do something, and then that'll give us a good idea anyway. I'd love to find the other piece, but I don't see it anywhere. Could be on the ground, could be on the other side. We'll look anyway. Okay folks, I decided to play with the rack a little bit because it was stuck, and I found out now both injectors are stuck. I can't get the racks to move at all, and they should be moving. So we're going to pull the injectors out and take them with us. I got the lines off, take the head bolts off. Should be able to lay this rocker out of the way, take a single bolt out, pull the injector out, and if we have to, we'll find two of them. I don't know what number they are, but we can get, you know, it's not that important. We can get two out of any, you know, 71 series. You can take two of them out of a, you know, V8, two of them out of a 6-cylinder, whatever, and we'll just figure it out. All right, let me get them out of there. Well, so I thought I had a 13/16, I don't. Big thing I got 3/4, so I can't get them off. I'm gonna walk back to the truck and see if I got a full way in there. I doubt it, but we're gonna see. But anyway, if not, we'll just have to wait and get them. Let me see. Right here is the racks. Now, when you call it a rack, that means it's a gear rack, is what we're trying to say. And it turns a piece inside. So the gear rack is loose and moving, but it's not going in and turning the piece in the injector. So that's what's stuck. And I don't want to force them. They're both the same, so I'd rather not force them. So I'm going to go try to find something to get that off. I didn't think I was going to be pulling them off, so I didn't really gear up for tool wise. And all I've got is an adjustable, and it's not going to work good on these bolts. So one more trip to the truck. All right. Okay, folks, here's what we've got. Unfortunately, I can't get them injectors out, so I'll probably just hunt up a couple injectors, and I'll bring the right tools with me and swap them. I just don't have everything with me, and I just really came to get that piece off that I knew I was going to make for the radiator. So while I was looking over here, I looked at the little baby supercharger that all these engines got to have, because they won't scavenge air if not, being it's a 2-cycle engine. So, you know, some people say, well, it's not a supercharged engine. Well, it ain't, because you got to have it, but you know, it is because it's there. So, you know, I guess that's not for me to argue, because you know, I'm not worried about it. Now I see that that's the injector line for the ether. I can see it's taken out of there, so they probably just ran ether down this hole, but it needs to have something over it. You know, all that's going to be fixed, air cleaner. But unfortunately, I noticed that there was no starter on this thing, and he didn't tell me that he'd pulled the starter. So someone may have stolen the starter. But, you know, he did tell me that he had pulled the fuel pump. So we're going to find a starter, and 3-bolt. I'm not sure how many teeth. It's not going to be a real complicated starter to find, but it's just the fact that we're going to have to
hunt one up. So I think I'll hunt one up. I'll go ahead and get 2 injectors lined up. I did find the broken piece for the other broken piece to come off of the water neck, so hopefully I can make that and get that finished up. And then I'm going to ask him about a starter. It'd be nice if the starter was here, but if I was a guessing man, I'd say somebody stole it. You know, some cut wires and stuff here anyway, so I don't think anybody cared a whole lot about it. So anyway, alright, so the rack's stuck on both injectors, and I don't need to be messing with that, starting it with, you know, rack stuck. No way. So we will get that lined up, get starter lined up, and the water neck, and we'll get in here with skid steer, bring some batteries. I think I figured my trail out, how I'm going to get out of here, since I've already walked it 3 times since I came in here. Let me show you underneath of what I was talking about on the brakes. Okay, here's underneath the machine. Now, pretty nasty under here. I don't know, been a lot of water. Probably some animals that lived up under here at one time. But what I actually wanted to show you, if we can get to it, you can see it. Okay, you see the piece hanging down on this side, and then you got a center, which where the drive gear's at, and then you got another one on this side. I can't see it through the camera real good, but anyway, that's your brakes. That's where you take the pieces off. There's 2 bolts that hold them on. You get right into the brakes on this machine. And you know, the people that owned this machine, I knew the guy that owned it before the guy that has it now, and I know that most equipment that he had was worn out when he got it. You know, he wasn't one to buy new model stuff. So I have no doubt that this is about as worn out as you're going to find on a piece of equipment. But like I said, I don't want it to get junked. I'm just trying to save something. And sprockets look good. There's your adjusters for this chain. And you know it's going to be stuck. It's sitting in the dirt. But once we get it moving, I'll have my skid steer here too. And I can bring the winch box if I have to and do a little winching. See, some stuff's been repaired. Both sides. But you know, stuff like that's normal. You know, you're always gonna find breaks and repairs on stuff. It's not as much on this machine as I figured there would be. And I checked everything. The rollers are good. Everything looks to be good and tight. You know, the house is not going to come falling off. But we do have at least one bushing in the front idler. That is terrible. I didn't see the back. Didn't look too bad. I mean, they're fair, but I'm sure there's a lot of wear on them. And let's go to that front one. I'll show you how bad the wear is. You can tell that that's not even in the bushing anymore. So that needs to be taken out and bored and fixed. If a man was going to use it on a job or something, I don't think it'll, you know, it's not going to affect what I'm doing. Which man's never going to take this machine on a job anyway. This side here, it don't look, no, it don't look wore at all. So somebody's got a longer pin in it, but they must have done some work on it. Sometimes on things it's easier, instead of rebushing it, is to just, if it's worn into the material, is to cut it out and weld a new bushing in it, steel, and then put your brass one in the center if you want it. But I think that's what they've done on this side. You can see where someone's done a little welding on it. But otherwise, I think it'll be okay. Boom, we're gonna have to get up and chain up because the cables are all messed up. I don't know what this is. It's something for a cable, 3/8 cable. Have no clue. I'm guessing that this probably, well, I guess that's supposed to be on top. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they had it. They probably didn't have it like it was supposed to be. You know, when it comes to having the cables ran like they should be and all that. So, you know, we're just dealing with, you know, pretty much junk anyway. So I'm not sure what size this is. It looks almost like it might be a half yard. This is a regular bucket that you'd be using to dig out in, you know, let's just say to dig a pond that didn't have any water, wasn't wet. You know, a Hendrix bucket has all the holes in it. That's what you would use to dig water or anything wet in a pond. That way you could the water would drain out. You wouldn't be just getting buckets of water. And I know there's a tag on this thing somewhere that says what it is, and it's not worn off because I've seen it. So there it is, and it ain't gonna do us any good sitting there. I can't see it. One of them's wore off, one's not. So it might only be a third of a yard or something, but light duty. Be a good bucket just to play with out there in the sand where I'm at. So I don't know. Will it live again? Well, we'll see. Worst comes to worst, we could abandon it. But as you all know, I'm not much into abandoning anything. And I think I've come to the conclusion that we're going to take this thing out down the fence line on this side of the fence because the other side's wet. I think if I keep it on this side of the fence and come in here with skid steer, maybe just pull the trees up. I can take the 4-in-1 and grab them and pull them up without disturbing the ground a lot. And because I don't want to disturb it and get it wet. So maybe just pull the trees up that we absolutely have to, move the dead ones. We're gonna have to run down, this creek runs down this road for a long ways. So we're gonna have to run down the edge of this field, and when we get to dry in the road, we'll cut the fence, cross over, and then head the rest of the way out. So this is gonna be fun if we can get it running and moving. All right, so I'm going to get all my tools up and valve cover back on and go ahead and see if I can get a couple injectors lined up and see what's in them, N65s, whatever's supposed to be in them. I can't see the tag on the injector, so worst comes to worst, we'll guess at it and just get something in there. And it don't, like I said, it don't matter if we pull them out of a 6 at 8, whatever we get them out of, and then we will we'll come up with a starter. And the starters are just about as big as the engine on these things. And so we'll have to get it up here and hooked up. And hopefully we can maybe update and get a gear reduction starter for it. And we'll go from there. But with it not being stuck, it'll run. As it is right now, it's going to run wide open. And when they shut off, the governor opened up and it's stuck wide open right now, both injectors. And I can't get them to move and I don't want to force them. So that's the deal. I was going to take them out, take them home, maybe take them apart, soak them, clean them up, whatever. But since I don't have the tools to get them out, we'll see if we can find some replacements. But all right, we're going to get at it, get out of here, and I appreciate everybody watching, and hopefully you'll stick by for the next one. All right, bye.